Hi guys, it is April from Getting Hogo With It. Today I am here to share with you what I read this September, what I loved, what I didn't love so much. Let's get into it. So I read 5 books in September, which is not so bad for someone who just gave birth to a baby and has had a major life change. I am pretty happy with that. I feel like I had a weird reading month in the sense that, well, first of all, I pretty much only wanted to read thrillers. And then secondly, I read some books that I felt kind of meh about, and then books that I was like hooked on that I loved. So I'm going to go from least favorites to most favorites. I've got a couple of 2-star reads, I'm sorry to say. The first 2-star read I want to talk to you about is Stone Mothers by Erin Kelly. Is it Erin Kelly? This woman wrote He Said, She Said, which I still have not read. It is on my shelves, but I saw that Stone Mothers was available on audiobook from my library, and I wanted to read it. So I snatched it up, and the beginning is so promising. It starts out with this woman going with her husband to this building that used to be a mental institute, and they transformed it. It had shut down, and they transformed it into a like hotel luxury condo kind of thing. And she is having a major panic attack because she has ties to this mental institute that her husband knows nothing about. I think he's either bought a condo in that building or he's rented a condo in that building, and he's done that to like surprise her and treat her because he's very wealthy, and she is horrified, full out panic attack. I just thought it was going to be so amazing, and it turned out to be quite boring. And the storyline I thought was going to happen did not happen, and I really didn't care about any of the characters in the end, which I don't know. I know that thrillers aren't necessarily very character driven. Some of them are. Some of them do that very well, and I appreciate those so much when that happens. But this one, all of the characters felt kind of flat. And there were no twists and turns that I was excited about. There might have been twists and turns, but none of them that I got excited about, at least. So it really only ended up being a 2-star read for me, unfortunately. I'm still going to read He Said, She Said because I've heard so many good things about that one, but Stone Mothers didn't do it for me. Now, the other 2-star read for me was a YA. I was like, for sure, I'm going to like this YA because it's a YA thriller. And it was Sadie. This is a favorite of many people. Like, I've heard pretty much only good things about Sadie. And I didn't like it. So Sadie is told in an interesting way. I really enjoyed the concept of the way that it was created. It's a podcast that follows the storyline and the mystery of the girls, and it's these 2 sisters. One of the sisters is murdered, and then the other sister soon after goes missing, and the sister that goes missing is called Sadie. And this guy who hosts this podcast is trying to track her down and trying to track down what happened to her, because she's still missing as this podcast has gone live. So the thing that I struggled with Sadie is this. It's kind of the same thing I struggle with detective stories, specifically the ones that you see the perspective of the detective and then the perspective of the victim. And it's like these 2 vantage points throughout a book. This did the same kind of thing because you're reading from the perspective of the guy who's hosting this podcast, and you're listening to the podcast basically. I listened to this on audiobook. The audiobook was great, by the way. So you get that vantage point, then you get his vantage point when he's meeting with people who knew Sadie, and you're trying to find out what's going on with her. And then you also get the vantage point of Sadie as well. And when you do that, all three perspectives, there ends up being a lot of repetition. I really struggle with that, and I find it lazy writing, because if you have to restate the same thing that we just learned from Sadie's perspective, for example, through a podcast, then what's the point of that? I really didn't like that. The ending was what made it go from a 3-star read to me to a 2-star read. I felt like, why did I read all of that for this? It was so lackluster. It was so lackluster. I was really angry about that. I really wanted it to be better. And there was no twists and turns. There were none to me. Everything that happened, I saw coming a mile away. It just didn't do it for me. So Sadie got 2 stars from me. It did get better from there. I also read The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. I gave this a 3-star. I did enjoy this for a couple of reasons. Ruth Ware is a very good gothic kind of writer. She has that vibe to her. I loved the atmospheric nature of this book. There's so much rain in this book that I really appreciated that. What I struggled with was a couple of things. First of all, this is marketed as a thriller, and I would say this is more of a mystery. There were twists and turns for sure, but of a mystery kind of nature and not a thriller, I'm on the edge of my seat kind of nature. It does feel a bit Agatha Christie-esque sometimes, which I enjoyed, but for the most part, I found the storyline kind of slow. So this is about, I should have said what this is about. This is about a woman who receives a letter in the mail saying that she is being given an inheritance from her grandmother. And she, as it so happens, is very poor. She has loan sharks after her. She's not doing well financially in her life at all. And so she goes, well, I mean, if this is a great fortune that I'm going to inherit, obviously this woman was filthy rich, and I'll take it. And so she goes to the funeral. She goes to this house, and she soon realizes maybe this wasn't the best idea in the world, and it gets a little more dangerous. I found that the only real excitement happened maybe at the 240 mark, and this book is about 360 pages long. And so for that reason, I wasn't struggling to flip the pages, but I was just like, please let something happen already. And I didn't really care. I think because I wanted it to be a thriller, I just kept waiting for big things to happen, and it was just fine. I enjoyed the writing, which is a very good thing. I did enjoy the writing. So there is that, but again, it just was a 3-star book for me in the end. And that's okay. And then we go from 3-star to 5-star. I have 2 5-star reads that I want to share with you. The first is Dear IJAWELE, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She wrote We Should All Be Feminists. This is obviously a tiny little book. I'm still counting it as a book because I can, and I will. And it makes me feel good about myself for my September reading. So this book really came to be because her friend had a baby girl, and she wrote to Chimamanda and said, listen, I've just had a baby girl. I really want to raise her to be a feminist. Can you tell me how to raise my daughter as a feminist? And so Chimamanda wrote a letter back. And so this is a variation of that letter. And it hit home majorly. If you're a feminist in any way, shape, or form, this will hit home for you too, most likely. I am definitely going to be buying this and giving it to, you know, other people who have children, who have baby girls, because it was just so good. So good. It really hits home. Even on the back, just a couple of things that she would suggest. Teach her to love books. Feminism and femininity are not mutually exclusive. Teach her about privilege and inequality and the importance of giving dignity to everyone. Give her a sense of identity. It matters. Just so many like obvious things, but she writes about them in a way that makes you see how society really sets up girls to not necessarily be feminists. And it takes some work to fight that. And to fight it in society, to fight it in your own head. And it was just so good. I so recommend this. This is such a short little read, but I read it just after Nora was born, and it was just what the doctor ordered, you know? And then the last book that I read, which was also a 5-star read, is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. Now, this might be a new favorite thriller for me. I just adored this book. In this book, we're following a woman who is in a coma, and she has visitors, including her husband and her sister, and she can hear what they're saying. She's just trapped in her own body, and she can't call out. She can't do anything except listen. And she's lying there kind of freaking out because she has a feeling that the people who might have put her in this coma is her husband and her sister. And wouldn't that be terrifying? This book, I think, out of all of the thrillers that I've ever read, has the most twists and turns. And these twists and turns came, and I was like, I did not see that one coming, or that one, or like any of them. I was shocked the whole way through in a very pleasant way. It was really good. It was really, really good. The writing was great as well. I really loved the characters. There was enough character development in here that I was on board with. One of the things I love the most about this book, and one of the things that thrillers rarely do, is flash backwards to childhood. So we get glimpses of her in the coma and being aware of what's going on around her. And then we get glimpses of her leading up to the coma, like just days before. And then we get these passages of this diary written by a child, and you read from that perspective as well, and it is so good. I wish I could read this all over again for the first time. Good. I really liked it. I don't know how anyone could not like this book. Anyway, if you haven't read Sometimes I Lie, clearly glowing endorsement from me. So those are all of the books that I read in September. What a great reading month. As you can tell, I am on a major thriller kick, and it's not slowing down. It really isn't. It's all I want to read. So let me know in the comments below what you read in September. What was the best book that you read in September? I would love to know, and I will chat with you soon. Bye, guys.